Hey, it's Miss Phelps, and tonight I'm going to give you a couple of helpful hints that will hopefully allow you to do better on the first unit test. So let's get started. And just so you know, there's quite a few of these, but I wanted to be as thorough as I possibly could to give you every advantage that you could possibly have for the test on Wednesday. Okay, so here we go. The first one is that Euclid was a Greek mathematician whose ideas became widely known in the 19th century. His most popular was his fifth postulate, known as the parallel postulate. Now, we didn't talk about the fact that Euclid was a Greek mathematician and that his ideas were widely known in the 19th century so often, so that's why I really wanted to hit this one first and just talk about it for a few minutes. And even though we call it Euclidean geometry, it was actually named after a guy named Euclid. Alright, the next thing is to know the difference between taxicab geometry and Euclidean geometry. If you remember a while back, we had like a page on the board that had squares on it, and we talked about the fact that in taxicab geometry, you can't just go from one point to another. You actually have to take turns because you can't make a straight shot in between the buildings. So that's taxicab geometry. Alright, and then you need to know that the foundations of geometry are on the three undefined terms. And hopefully you remember that those are points, lines, and planes. Alright. The next one is postulates versus theorems. Theorems are, everyone just knows that they are true. Postulates are assumed to be true, although they have not actually been proven. Theorems have been proven. Alright, like I said, postulates are assumptions. They haven't been proven, but everybody just assumes that they're true. Okay? Planes are made of three non-collinear points. Now, if you remember, if you have three collinear points, they could be on a line, but that does not make a plane. Planes are made of three non-collinear points. Alright, next we have two lines intersect at a point. If you remember, we talked about that. They intersect at a point, and two planes intersect at a line. They make a line down where the two planes meet. Alright, some vocabulary that you need to know. Collinear, skew, parallel, perpendicular, intersecting. You might want to know coplanar, in the same plane, things like that. A lot of these, luckily, are on my wall. So the day of the test, if you just do a little looking around the room, hopefully you can come up with most of these. Alright, number 9. Constructing segments and angle bisectors. Now, one of the questions on the test is actually constructing a segment. And hopefully you remember that when we constructed segments, we had to mark with our compass how far one line was, and then we went down on the next line and made that same mark. And angle bisectors, remember, those half an angle. So what's on one side is exactly the same amount as the other side. So that also means that points that are on the bisector are exactly the same amount to the outside of the angles. And trust me, you'll see that again. Okay, let's move down a little bit. Okay, the segment addition postulate and the angle addition postulate. I hope you remember that we talked about these. They're on my wall, and it says that the left side of a segment plus the right side of a segment equal the whole thing. So if you have this piece and then this piece and you put those together, it equals the whole section. And it was the same way with an angle. If you have this angle and then I add this part to it, then it's the same as the whole thing. Alright. Points between other points are always named in answer choices. Okay, so for instance, if I have B is in between A and C, then AB plus BC is going to equal from A to C. And if you'll notice that B, the one that's in the middle, is in both parts of it that make them fit together. So make sure you look for that. All right, conditional statements. Which two actually go together? Okay, so first of all, you know that conditional statements are if-then statements. The hypothesis is the if part, the conclusion is the then part. There are converse, inverse, and contrapositive statements. And remember that the first conditional, the regular conditional statement, and the contrapositive, if one is true, they're both true. They're always the same. And converse and inverse are always the same. Okay? All right. Inductive versus deductive. You need to make sure you know that deductive is just going by the facts that you know. Inductive is looking for a pattern and seeing what you can piece together. All right, and the last thing that I cannot stress enough to you tomorrow is to draw a picture. The pictures are going to be the most important thing that will help you on quite a few of those questions that seem like they can get a bit confusing. But if you draw a picture, I promise you they will make so much more sense. Okay, these are about the most tips that I have for you. I hope that you do a great job on Wednesday, and good luck. Thanks. Make good choices.